I just got an email from Perry Marshall talking about one of his signature victories. And that language jumped out at me because it's particularly good language for what's also known as like a success story, right? A customer client success story. And so I thought that I would maybe use that as inspiration for today's episode to talk to you about collecting success stories and signature victories, featuring some lessons learned from Perry Marshall and Dan Kennedy, and my own insights and reflections, and a couple examples related to all of this, because these are really powerful marketing and selling tools. They're extremely powerful marketing and selling tools, and it's something that you should be collecting. You should be collecting these in your business for your services, for your products, whatever it is, right? If you have customer success stories, client success stories coming in, especially ones that represent what you are capable of doing, right? The results that you're capable of generating, collect them, right? And have them readily available so that you can talk about them. So, Perry's Signature Victories email, I'm not going to go into the email itself here, but what I'll say is that he actually put it out. He put this out as a teaching tale, right? He was saying that he learned this lesson from Richard Koch, a business partner of his, and the guy who wrote the 80-20 Principle book. Right? He learned this lesson from Richard Koch, and he said, you know what? These lessons perfectly match my signature victories. And here's an example of one of my signature victories. And so he used it as a teaching tale, but he also used this as a demonstration of authority. He used this to say, here is how I can solve business problems. I solve complex business problems in this way that is, that's a simplification, that is an elevation of the business, the offer, the product, like all of that, right? And so he was demonstrating his authority as a business thinker. And in the context of all of that, he was setting up the sale. He was using this, he was telling this story, the signature victory story, as a way to set up a call to action toward a current offer that he's running. And it's maybe the best way to use these signature victories, these customer success stories, client success stories, is to be able to tell them and then to say, if you want results like this, here's your opportunity to get them from me. Now, one of the cool things about Perry generally collecting all of these stories is that he has worked them into being the driver of his copywriting style. Now, I've done a lot of copy reviews for Perry, going back to the first event he did with Richard Koch years ago, almost a decade ago at this point. And Perry has become a client and a friend. And when I review his copy, almost invariably, there is the idea, like the core promise that he wants to make. And then there is story after story. And he uses these stories to, instead of just making empty promises to people, to demonstrate that he is able to provide the results that he's promising in this particular offer, right? And so it became integral to his copywriting style that really all he does is he tells these stories, these success stories and these signature victory stories. And it makes him a very effective copywriter because it's very readable, it's very believable, it's very engaging, right? And all he has to do is tie together these different success stories in a way that that supports the key narrative, the key promises that he wants to make. And so that is a huge potential that comes out of having all of these stories collected. Now, this also taps into a lesson that I picked up from Dan Kennedy. And, I've shortened it here, KFKA, right? Which stands for known for and known as. And I heard this from Dan at one point. He said that you have to decide, you have to become intentional about what you want to be known for as no matter what it is, right? If you're If you're developing your career, if you're developing your business, if you're developing services that you're selling, if you're developing the products and the company, the brand behind the products, right? You want to be known for certain things and you want to be known as certain things. The important part of this is that it's a cultivated reputation, right? It is based in fact, it's based in truth, but you choose which stories you're going to tell. You choose which success stories you're going to focus on. You choose what become your signature victories. And so what you're known for, those are your signature victories, right? What did you accomplish? What did you accomplish? What are you known for accomplishing? And this is going to be for clients, it's going to be for employers, it's going to be for whatever it is, right? We could apply this in almost any field imaginable. You want to be known for certain things. And so people in your market, your target audience, needs to know you for being able to accomplish XYZ, right? But then what do you want to be known as? And this is the identity of the person who had that signature victory, right? The identity statement of who you are because of the victory. So who does it make you because you had that success story? Who does it make you because you had that signature victory? And so your signature victory might be building a certain scalable funnel for a client. And the identity that comes out of that is, I'm the type of person who understands how to build funnels that scale on cold traffic, right? And so it's known for accomplishing certain things and known as a certain type of person who is able to accomplish those things, right? And those are two ways to get at the fundamental things that help people make decisions to go with you and oftentimes pay you premium fees. So one example that actually came up the other day is Joshua Lee Henry, who got his start in financial copywriting through coming to an event that I put on a few years ago. Now he is the chief faculty at World of Financial Copywriting, which is the Copy Chief Financial Copywriting program. And I heard him mention on a call with a client the other day, oh yeah, Roy worked with me on that $15 million funnel. So it is clear that this is a signature victory for him. This was a sales funnel of a mutual client. Joshua was the copywriter. I was brought in to do copy reviews on the funnel, and I helped them kind of reshape the narrative to something that I thought would work particularly well for that product, that audience, etc. And at first it was the funnel that made more than $1 million, and then it was the funnel that made more than 5 million, and more than 9 million was one of the numbers that I remember hearing. And most recently, it's that $15 million funnel, right? And so a signature victory for Joshua for his copywriting was this funnel. It's now a $15 million funnel. You could say that this is also a signature victory for me for my copy review services. I got on the phone with a client for, I think this one ended up being 2 copy reviews. And so got on the phone for 2 hours, reviewed the copy about an hour each time on top of that, and helped a client create a $15 million funnel, right? And so this is an example of a signature victory. And when you have something like this and you can keep pointing to it, well, it's going to attract a lot of a certain type of marketer who would be interested in that, right? An example that I've used often, although the further we get away from it in time, the less excited I am, I guess, to use it over and over again, is the Titans of Direct Response. Now, this is going to stick with me for life, right? But when Brian Kurtz put on really the event of a lifetime, featuring so many of our heroes in direct response, Brian got a hold of me and said, hey, Roy, can you write the sales letter for it? And it's a longer story than that, but it was a very visible success story in the industry. The people on the stage, some of the greatest minds in direct response marketing. The people in the audience, also some of the greatest minds in direct response marketing. And I was featured for writing the sales letter for Titans of Direct Response. I was the person that filled the conference room at the Marriott in Stamford, Connecticut. And, arguably, Brian put on Brian put together quite an incredible offer for it too. But I was the copywriter who wrote that copy. And because it was such a visible success story, it has remained a signature victory far beyond some other promotions that I've written that actually maybe generated more revenue, right? So you just lean into things like this as opportunities come up. Of course I'm going to lean into it, right? I'm not going to hide this. I can let it continue to be a signature victory for life. So my lesson to you, your lesson from this, and your homework from this is to start collecting stories, right? And I will acknowledge that, yeah, they might be smaller at first. As you're beginning your career, as I was beginning my career, my signature victories were much smaller. But as you grow, well, first off, those initial stories that are not that big. This is another term that I got from Dan Kennedy. He talked about turning molehills into mountains, right? Where you find the best way while still being fundamentally attached to the truth of the story. You find the best way to present it, right? You make a bigger deal of it. One thing that Dan talked about is early on in his speaking career, and other speakers do this too, he talked about sharing the platform with X, Y, Z, all of these famous speakers. So when I've spoken at copywriting conferences, even in 2009, when I was like rookie, I wasn't even a full-time freelance copywriter yet. I actually spoke on a panel at AWAI's bootcamp and job fair. And Dan happened to be speaking at that same event. So I have shared the platform. I've shared the speaking platform with Dan Kennedy, right? And that's an example of turning molehills into mountains. Now, I was on a platform, had nothing to do with Dan. He didn't really talk to me that much at that event, like besides just a really brief interaction. He didn't acknowledge my speaking skills. He didn't remember my name, right? Eventually, I met him and have had more conversations with him. Not that much though. But it was, this is an example of turning a molehill into a mountain from an early success story, right? And then as the successes get bigger, you move the bigger ones up front, right? Where you can even present them with a lot of humility and downplay them. But the successes kind of speak for themselves because they are so big, and you can put those more front and center. And then just adapt them. Once you start collecting these, then you have them to use, and you can use them in whatever context it makes sense. So, Perry's copywriting style being a good example, Perry uses these stories all the time because he's been connected with so many businesses. He's consulted with so many businesses that he's just able to just pull out these stories. This person had this success, and this person had this success, and this person had this success, and the linking factor was this thing that I want to share with you. And if you would like that, come join me for this event or whatever, right? It's all about having ways, it's all about having the raw materials that you can then work with and adapt and use them in whatever context makes the most sense for you. So with that, your call to action at the end of this episode is to ask yourself how you can use this. What signature stories do you need to put together? Would it be useful to have notes available to yourself somewhere so that you can use these going forward? Is there a place where you can feature them? Don't forget to like and subscribe so you get more content like this delivered to you. And this is a great example of proof, credibility, and believability in your marketing. Having these things available makes your marketing infinitely more believable. And that's very powerful, especially today. If you would like more ways to add proof, credibility, and believability to your marketing, check the link in the description. That training is part of my BTMSinsiders streaming library of copywriting and marketing courses where you pay one low fee and you get access to the entire catalog. I'm Roy Furr. This is Breakthrough Marketing Secrets, and I'll see you again in the next episode. See you soon. Bye. Thank you once again for tuning in to this daily episode of Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. Remember, check out the links with this episode for even more value. Now make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, and engage in every way you can to keep this show going and growing and delivering daily value to you. I'll catch you soon for your next big breakthrough.